Greetings, this is Jazz of JazReviews, with the first heavy hitter of Kojima Productions. This is my review for Death Stranding. Cetacean stranding is the strange phenomenon whereby masses of dolphin or whale find themselves beached on shore to die a slow death from dehydration, or drown from the incessant pounding of waves pouring into their blowholes. This is the dark mood set for Death Stranding, which plays with this image to build a United States consumed by utter death and annihilation. Relics of the past remain in staunch reminder of defeated glories. Population is scarce, the land barren. The apocalyptic event known as a Death Stranding is slowly unraveled through the player's interaction with the storyline and underlying lore of the past. Alternative universe forces called the Beached Things, or BTs, have dawned upon man and continue to feed on the human race to the brink of extinction. That may seem pretty bleak, but to resist the BTs and power on in this near future would pose the risk of void outs. If just one human being is claimed by a BT, or even killed by another human being, the clock starts ticking. This can result in cataclysmic explosions that leave gigantic craters and death in their wake, not to mention a massive surge in BT numbers. So unsurprisingly, what is left of mankind live in isolated underground bunkers, but people still need pizza deliveries. Acted and voiced by Norman Reedus, Sam is a freelance courier, newly recruited for the aspiring government/administration called Bridges. Its aim, to reconnect America. Through the chiral network, elaborate 3D printers are capable of creating important tools or supplies, but most items must still be delivered by Sam. In return, these hubs, or knots as the game romantically calls them, are expected to join the United Cities of America to pool their collective research and help Bridges form a solid strand from the east to west coast. On top of this, the main villain, Higgs, voiced by Troy Baker,
the name's Higgs,
leads a terrorist unit beset on blowing things up to screw with the UCA in aid of preventing the world from ever reconnecting. Mads Mikkelsen also takes on an important yet mysterious antagonist whom I cannot talk about due to spoilers. It may frustrate you to learn that outside major plot development cutscenes, the vast majority of personal interaction is directed towards holograms, and the bulk of what they have to say is simply emailed to you. Yet this is supposed to be a lonely world, and in essence, it really does feel lonesome, almost clinical or robotic in social interaction. But that's your brief. You better half like the look of Norman Reedus, because you'll be seeing a lot of him in Sam. That said, he doesn't like to talk very much, although his performance is excellent and the game's facial animations are as realistic as you can get. I'll save some of my criticisms with the narrative for the end of the review, but what is most impressive about Kojima's storytelling is how obsessively intertwined it is with every aspect of gameplay. It not only foreshadows how the game should function, but justifies its comparatively limited and seemingly restricted gameplay to form one solid vision. This is a game about getting from A to B. BTs aside, cargo condition and occasionally speed are the things the player worries most about. Carrying enormous leaning tower of Pisas or hurling Sam down treacherous mountain banks is equally as funny as it is sadistic. The more cargo or weight he carries, the harder it becomes. Luckily, the cargo management menu offers an auto-arrange button to best distribute the weight. Correcting Sam's balance with the trigger buttons requires a certain knack for timing if you want to travel at any speed, while the faintest of movements in the wrong direction may throw Sam into face-planting the bottom of a cliff. Quick, active judgments must be made in relation to rocky terrain, the elevation of a slope, and Sam's speed and momentum. These variables all play to a complex physics-based system with stellar animations to boot. And speaking of boots, be sure to carry an extra pair for when they fall apart and cause Sam's feet to bleed. Your eye will constantly be drawn to the stamina bar, which is affected by nearly every variable you may think of, as well as the unlockable gadgets. I won't name all of the toys made available, but let's get into how the idea of delivering packages and the tedium of logistics is actually exciting. Exoskeleton suits may reduce cargo weight, increase speed, or improve Sam's balance, while power gloves allow Sam to more easily descend or ascend steep inclines, in addition to help lifting heavy cargo and climbing ropes. One very interesting piece of equipment is the floating carrier that effortlessly trails behind the main pack horse. Alternatively, clear the cargo from a carrier and hop on to snowboard your way down the mountains. Heavy impact will certainly damage the cargo, but its protective container can at least be repaired with a repair spray, which will also help against timefall. But what is timefall, you ask? The rain and snow in Death Stranding is highly damaging to the skin, structures, and of course, cargo. The idea being that the unworldly effects of BTs have caused precipitation to effectively accelerate the effects of time to anything that the droplets come into contact with. It tends to also signal local BT activity. BTs are blind, yet acute in hearing Sam's movements. If found, the BTs will create for some very stressful situations, which go down a little like this. If you don't get away in time, be prepared to take on one of the very large catches. The deathly tar-like substance will flow by the gallon, which in itself is a glorious technological sight to see perfectly engulf the environment. Luckily, Sam is given a number of unlockable weapons to combat BTs, such as anti-BT assault rifles and hematic grenades filled with his bodily fluids. Sam is special, you see. He's also what's known as a repatriate, who may come back from death. Usually it's best to flee the BTs if Sam's caught with his pants down. Sneaking around the BTs is the most sensible choice, which the game does very well. Intermittently, BT outlines will appear and disappear, but the monsters themselves will continue to move when they're completely invisible. Sam's curiously weird bridge baby is paramount to survival. The order neck can be used to assess the difficulty of terrain and depth of water. It's also used in conjunction with the BB's power of sensing nearby BTs, which points to the closest enemy and increasingly gets faster and faster until the BT's practically licking Sam's face. These BT moments are filled with tension. The sound design proves as subtle and dynamic as the BT's unpredictable movements. If I had but one gripe or wish, I would have liked a little more variety among the anti-BT weapons, which pretty much double up on the standard versions, while the gameplay differences between urine, blood, sweat, or feces grenades are somewhat uninspired. Maybe one more bodily fluid would have made all the difference.
Nice.
Sam will frequently stumble upon mule campsites too. Mules are cargo thieves, obsessed with stealing your hard-earned cargo to stockpile it and sit around in a group, masturbating to it presumably. Occasionally, you will have to infiltrate their camp and steal back certain cargo. Items like smoke and stun grenades work as expected. Decoy cargo can be set to lure a mule into an explosion, while the bowler gun may be used to ensnare pursuers. Thankfully, these fiends will attempt to knock Sam unconscious and steal his cargo. Terrorist camps are almost exactly the same, but these enemies will use lethal weapons and try very hard to kill Sam. You can kill human enemies, but bear in mind those bodies will have to be transported to a special incinerator or tar pit miles away, all while the clock is ticking. Mule camps and BT areas work as brilliant bottlenecks, designed to force the player to rethink the amount of cargo they chose to carry, to ditch their vehicle, or even consider more difficult paths to navigate altogether. Yes, I did mention vehicles, and the two machines on offer are somewhat stiff to handle, yet suit the greater picture of maneuvering over countless obstacles in the world, as every rock can be an issue. So straddle the highly mobile and speedy reverse trike with space for 2 saddlebags of cargo, or take the truck out for a spin. While this vehicle is capable of carrying large stacks of cargo, it will be considerably slower and an asshole to deal with in difficult terrain. In fact, 4-wheel drive is useless when none of the tires are touching the ground. No problem, I'll get out and regretfully walk the rest of the way. I can't. I managed to wedge Sam in between a rock and a very hard place. 10 minutes in, I considered cutting Sam's arm off. Eventually the rope got him out, but it's these frustrating situations that make Death Stranding a highly personalized adventure. The player has complete freedom to traverse the world how they please, but what works flawlessly with what is quintessentially a single-player experience is the online component. You may come across magically placed ladders or conveniently placed ground anchors used to parasail down cliff edges. Your game will share the placement of certain objects and structures between your game and a number of other players in the same server. As long as Sam is within the boundaries of the chiral network, a small number of structures can also be constructed. Roads must be placed in predefined areas, but are greatly rewarding and allow for easy travel. All other structures can be placed wherever, providing Sam has the required materials. Bridges, while expensive, are invaluable over tricky canyons or rivers. Ziplines are obtained later in the game, but will save heaps of time. Portable post boxes allow Sam to offload the cargo he no longer wishes to carry by entrusting it to another player in their their game to deliver your cargo on your behalf. You will also find other players' lost cargo sprawled across the wasteland that you can personally deliver in return for likes. Likes are very much the currency of the game. If you're lucky, any structure you built will be encountered and liked by other players in their world. In Dark Souls fashion, players can also drop warnings and information through signs, again inviting opportunities to like someone's efforts in trying to guide the community navigate a tricky mountain pass, for example. But what the hell are all these likes used for, besides fulfilling Kojima's satirical side against social media? Well, likes will level up your character and provide the benefit of looking more experienced to other players that look you up, and issue buffs like increased cargo weight, more stamina, and an increased number of strand contracts and build requests. These contracts can be made with other players online to ensure the structures collectively built appear in both your games. Build requests simply allow other players to crowdsource the materials needed to build stuff. There is an incentive to leveling up Sam's relationship with UCA knots too. Gadget upgrades and cosmetics can be unlocked when you incrementally level up these settlements. But let's critique. The storyline plays to an effective, gratifying, and atmospheric world to explore, while its entirely meaningful gameplay is excellently paced in unlocks and difficulty. The storyline struggles to maintain all of its energy and loses steam in some places. By all means, the concept is highly unique and dabbles in certain philosophical questions, though at times the game's basic ideology is peddled a little too hard at times, and makes the experience feel somewhat one-tracked. With the exception of one or two ideas vaguely explored, a real convincing investigation into the more human elements of survival and the individual moral scenarios that would inevitably ensue is something the game never really sinks its teeth into. When Sam rests in one of his identical mundane personal rooms across the map to essentially recharge his BB, you may notice, in fact it's impossible not to notice, the collection of Monster energy cans sitting on the table. Instead of sipping on water out in the wilderness, Sam's canteen can be filled with Monster energy, which of course replenishes more stamina than water. I can't imagine how much money exchanged hands.
You the delivery dude? I've just about given up on you.
But product placement even on this level is something I don't really have a problem with. If the game gets the funding it needs to deliver an unforgettable experience, it can easily be overlooked. But in conclusion, the core mechanics are astoundingly good. Once you peel back the skin and can get past the prospect of simply delivering packages and cargo, there is a commendable and awe-inspiring depth to Death Stranding. It also looks beautiful, and its creators know it. It's filled with delicately placed cues in particularly special areas to trigger gentle music from the game's stunning score. But Death Stranding is not for everyone. It certainly demands patience and the willingness to spend a lot of time thinking outside any high-octane action. I found the game's design extremely tight and focused upon what it obviously set out to achieve, and it achieved it. Death Stranding will go down as one of the most unconventionally inspiring games you could ever play. I issue Death Stranding 9 out of 10. This has been Jazz of JazReviews. Thank you for watching, and to those fellow couriers out there, let me know how you got on with the game. But until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the comments.